I know what it feels like to feel lost. I know what it feels like to just want to not be here.
When our veterans come home from war, it's easy for many of us to believe that danger is over. But for many, the battle continues, fighting for their mental health, sometimes with thoughts of suicide. Here in New Mexico, the veteran suicide rate is almost 50% higher than the national average. Tonight, foreign investigator Colton Schoen is taking a hard look at the reasons why.
I did 6 deployments to Iraq. So my specific job was, I was a corpsman stationed with the Marine Corps. So we're right there in the mix of things, and we're seeing everything firsthand.
Kano Williams is home now in Albuquerque, but anything can trigger a switch in his mind that takes him back to the battlefield.
I wound up getting blown out of a vehicle, knocked on my head. I had a cranial hemorrhage. Wound up being, I was in a coma. And then I was in a wheelchair for about a year and a half.
That, coupled with PTSD, had Kano walking down a dark path.
I know exactly how it feels. I know what it feels like to feel lost. I know what it feels like to just want to not be here.
Like many veterans in this situation, Kano thought about taking his own life. Death by suicide is a public health concern, and for veterans, the numbers are startling. According to the latest report from the Department of Veterans Affairs, the national suicide rate for veterans is 30.1 per 100,000 people. Here in New Mexico, it's higher at 44.1 per 100,000 people. New Mexico had 91 veteran suicides in 2014, 69 in 2015, and another 71 veteran suicides in 2016. Numbers for 2017 and 2018 have not been compiled yet.
In the more rural states, that the suicide rates are at a higher level. And so we attribute that to the more isolation.
Christina Camacho is a suicide prevention case manager at the Albuquerque VA hospital. She says in many of New Mexico's rural communities, veterans have a difficult time reaching out for help. Plus, there's another problem. While the Veteran Affairs Department has been vocal about decreasing suicides, a new Government Accountability Office report shows that the national offices were underfunding suicide prevention programs. According to the report, $6.2 million was set aside for suicide prevention campaigns for fiscal year 2018, but only $57,000 was used. That's less than 1% of the budget. The reason? The report says the top suicide prevention position wasn't filled. That has since changed. We asked how New Mexico may have been affected.
Do states get carved out a specific amount of money for those types of efforts?
I'm not too sure. That's more of the national level of how they dispense that money.
Camacho couldn't say how the problems revealed in the accountability report affected New Mexico, but she did say New Mexico has been given more resources to help address suicides, more training on how to help aging veterans, and new funding for a brand new social worker to travel to smaller communities.
What does New Mexico need in order to bring this problem to a level that's almost non-existent?
Well, you know, as far as the state of New Mexico and all veteran, non-veteran, civilian, we do need more mental health resources.
Kano agrees more mental health resources are needed, and that's why he's also on a mission, by getting more people to talk about PTSD, using his car to get that message out.
The whole idea is to pretty much have a rolling billboard, so no matter where I go, no matter whether it's to the grocery store or to work, I have a conversational piece. It's my own personal therapy for me.
He's also started his own organization called Shell Shock 22. Shell shock is how some used to refer to PTSD, and 22 calls attention to the number of veterans who die by suicide every day. His goal is to raise money for veterans' mental health services.
There's nothing more saddening to me to see someone who has served 1 deployment, 6 deployments, 8 deployments of combat get home to their loved ones just to die. It makes no sense to me.
Colton Schoen, 4 Investigates.